Hi, everyone. Hope your Pathways open house is going well. My name is Jonathan Maynard. I am the Assistant Director for Studyway Outreach at NYU's Office of Global Programs. And in today's breakout session, we're going to be discussing your opportunities to study away in NYU's global network. So as you continue to research the university, I'm sure you'll find that really study away is an integral part of our DNA, and you will have a tremendous opportunity to explore new cities and cultures while gaining credit towards your degree progress. So some of the things that we'll want to cover today, there are actually a number of ways that you can go about achieving a study away semester at NYU. So we'll go over some of those opportunities. Your health and wellness and safety being our #1 priority. We'll want to make sure that you're aware of some of those resources. Costs and financial aid. Costs are often seen as a primary barrier for students seeking to study away. So we think that we have a lot in place to actually make a study away semester comparable to a semester in New York, or in many cases, more affordable. So we'll let you know how students go about achieving that. And of course, you can't study away with the study component. So our academic opportunities are really a part of what makes NYU a leader in the field. So we'll cover that, and it'll be a while yet before you're able to submit an application to NYU Study Away, but we'll just want you to be aware of some of the considerations that we pass along to students who are considering this opportunity. So here's a snapshot of our global network. We've got 3 degree granting campuses, New York, Abu Dhabi, and Shanghai, and 12 global academic centers. So a degree granting campus, what that means is, students who are arriving for a 4-year degree, and at the end of their academic career, they receive a diploma from that campus. Global academic centers won't issue you a degree, but you can study there for a semester or academic year, and they all have robust curriculums that allow you, again, to take courses towards your degree progress. And so in total, there are 15 global locations across 6 continents. So really a tremendous opportunity at NYU to explore the world and study. And our model, is really designed to maximize access. As students come to NYU, we see about 90% of first-year students indicate an interest in studying away. So with that degree of interest, it really is important for us to have a structure that is seamless and maximizes access, and just removing as many barriers as possible. And I think that's what you're going to find if you choose to come to NYU. So a lot of study away providers, you're going to be put into a third-party arrangement. Here at NYU, if you study abroad in the global network, you're going to be going to NYU facilities, taking NYU courses for NYU credit, courses that are taught by NYU faculty, and you're going to be supported by a full-time NYU staff. So I mentioned, there are a few different ways to go about achieving a study away semester. Chances are that you would be working with the Office of Global Programs. We send the most students abroad at NYU, but it's really such a big part of what we do that there are study away opportunities from a number of places. So you might want to go for a short-term program instead of a full fall or spring semester. So there are summer opportunities, there are January term opportunities. You might be in a course that has an alternative break opportunity, or you might come to NYU through Tisch School of the Arts or the Stern School of Business, and they're going to have their own dedicated study abroad offices with their own study abroad programs. And so there's really a number of ways to go about doing this, but when you come to NYU, it's such a big part of what we do. We make sure that we're in touch with you, consistently, just to make sure that you're aware of deadlines and all the different ways that you can take advantage of the global network. Another thing that students might want to consider is international exchange. So here we have just a list of partner universities that we work with around the world, and so this is for students who might want to experience a different educational model than the NYU model that I was talking about a slide or two earlier. So maybe students want to access regions that are not available through a traditional global academic center or a degree granting campus. And one of the big differences here, whereas with a global academic center, you're going to be studying with just other NYU students on the program. Again, going to an NYU facility with a full-time NYU staff, exchange is a little bit different in that you would probably be among just a handful of students that are enrolling directly into a different institution. So again, sort of stepping a little bit away from the NYU support, taking a bit more of an independent experience, but this is a really kind of strong immersion opportunity for students who want to try something other than an academic center or a degree granting campus. Understanding some of the program's key similarities and differences. So tuition and registration fees. When you come to NYU in New York, the tuition and registration fees that you pay are going to be the same tuition and fees that you pay when you study away. The financial aid package that you work hard for, that you receive at NYU, that's going to be the same no matter where you go in the global network. So if you choose to go to London, or if you choose to go to Sydney, Australia, that financial aid package is going to travel with you. Courses are offered in English at all of our locations. But if you want to really advance your language skills, and take a course that's intermediate or advanced in a specific language, those courses are available throughout the global network. Another similarity is NYU arranged housing. So at all of our locations, this is guaranteed to students. You're going to be guaranteed NYU arranged housing. So we're not going to put you in a position where you have to arrive on site and go about signing a lease and finding a place to live. We're going to take care of that for you, but it is also one of the key differences. Housing varies from site to site. So there are some programs that rely on kind of a traditional residence hall model where you're going to be just living with other students on that program. Other sites might utilize homestays where you're living with host families, and again, just a really great opportunity to learn more about the culture and have a fully immersed experience. And in other programs, we utilize apartment style suites where you're in a suite with maybe 6 or 8 other students, but the other apartments in that building are where kind of locals in the city reside, or students from other study away programs. Another key difference would be our academic offerings. So all the sites are unique, and that's sort of part of the fun of exploring the global network, is sort of seeing what each offers. But if you come in studying business, a site like London or Florence might be just more ideal for you from an academic perspective than other sites. And similarly, if you were studying sociology, you might want to look at a program like Prague or Berlin. So quite a diverse array of courses that we have throughout the global network. And we do a lot of work with the departments in New York to make sure that there's a strong curriculum abroad that allows students to, again, take relevant courses that'll help them, achieve their degree progress. There are required language courses at the majority of sites. Some of them don't have a language requirement, but many of them do. So that's just something you'll want to factor into your academic planning. And of course, another key difference is cost of living. So you definitely want to consider the strength of the dollar if cost is a major concern to you. The dollar is a little bit weaker against the euro or the British pound, but if you're considering going to Buenos Aires, Argentina, the dollar is much stronger against the Argentine peso, or the Ghanaian cedi, or the Chinese yuan. So these are opportunities, if you have a good budgeting plan where students can find themselves, saving a considerable amount of money just based on cost of living and based on the affordability of housing in some of these locations, compared to what you might find in New York. And of course, a part of, again, what makes some of these sites different and unique, they're all going to have their own specialized opportunities. So if you are interested in politics and leadership at NYU Washington, D.C., there is a great leadership program with a strong internship component and a leadership course. If you are into the entertainment and media fields, you might want to consider NYU Los Angeles, where there is a really great internship program that gets you hands-on experience in the entertainment industry. If you're a biology major, NYU Tel Aviv has a biology internship program where it kind of gets you into some, top tier labs where you're going to be, again, gaining that valuable, hands-on experience. No site is the same. Really, a part of the fun is doing the research and figuring out, what's going to be the best study away opportunity for you. Definitely want to talk about health and wellness. GeoBlue International Health Insurance. So this is a comprehensive international health insurance that's provided to students free of charge. We want to make sure that, if you're going to go study abroad through NYU, that that you have coverage in the event that something happens. We also work with students to make sure that they have valid domestic health insurance before they go abroad, in the event that, the unlikely event that something were to occur abroad and care would need to continue when you return. So in many cases, students secure valid domestic health insurance through their parent or guardian's coverage, but that's also something that can be secured through the NYU Student Health Center. Many students have a strong support network among their parents and friends, but there can be challenges associated with adjusting to a new culture. And we just want you to know that we have licensed clinical psychologists and wellness counselors available at all of our locations, and that's free of charge. That's something over the last few years we've been doing a lot of work on to make sure that those resources are in place. So you would just make an appointment through the Office of Student Life, and that would give you access to a licensed professional that you can speak with. And of course, you're supported by a full-time NYU Student Life staff, and these teams are made up of people who live there in the city year-round. They're local, so they really know the location and how to best offer support over the course of your semester. A member of that team, they get you oriented with a detailed orientation at the start of the program, but if it's after hours, you'll always be able to reach a member of that team through a 24/7 duty phone. In the same way, the Office of Global Programs is always, available through a 24/7 duty phone. So just want you to rest assured that, there are a lot of resources, while you're abroad, to make sure that you're covered health-wise, and that if you need, support during a difficult stretch of the semester, that there are people that you're going to be able to reach 24/7. A little bit more on health and wellness. We have to acknowledge that we're still in the middle of a global pandemic. COVID-19, remains a challenge for everyone. When you choose to study away with NYU, the safety standards that we develop in New York, there's no sacrifice to that when you go abroad. So there are a number of safety measures that we have in the New York facilities. Those all apply to the NYU controlled facilities abroad. Here in New York, vaccinations are required for students and staff. That requirement extends to the study abroad sites. And in addition, there are local COVID-19 restrictions in these host cities that you will have to take into consideration. Of course, that's where our full-time student life staff will be really invaluable, and just making sure that you're aware of those safety guidelines and protocols. And the good news, we're going to be looking at the fall semester progress closely, but the good news is that we have students at just about all of our sites for fall 21 semester, and things are going well. So we just are hopeful that progress continues, and also NYU has a great emergency response team through NYU Public Safety, and they're not just responsible for New York. They have a command center where they kind of monitor situations at all of our global sites, and making sure that we're in a position to respond to anything that might come up. And just keep in mind that this is a really experienced emergency response team. Hopefully, when the time comes for you to study abroad, nothing will happen. But just in previous years, there have been things like an Ebola outbreak in West Africa, riots in London, hostilities in the Middle East. So these are unfortunate things that we hope that none of you will have to deal with. But this is all experience for NYU, where we've had the resources in place and kind of help students navigate those challenges. So costs of studying away. There are a few different costs to consider. Included on your bill, your NYU bill, are going to be your standard tuition and fees. and your housing and course fees. Of course, housing is something where it could, vary depending upon the site that you go to. Before arrival, this says deposits, but that's actually sort of being phased out. It shouldn't be anything that you have to worry about by the time that you consider maybe submitting an application to study abroad. But often overlooked are immigration fees. So, students, most students will have to secure a student visa. That's something that can, cost several $100s. Flights can be, anywhere from a few $100s to well over $1,000. So these are things that you'll want to factor into your budget. And then, of course, during the program, personal expenses and personal travel. Study abroad can be, an expensive semester if you're going, again, to one of those locations where the cost of living is a little bit more comparable to New York, and if you're traveling a lot, and if you're eating out a lot. But a meal plan at NYU study away sites is something that is very rare. So all of our housing will have a fully stocked kitchen. So that's an area where we encourage students to think about saving money, is budgeting for meal expenses and cooking in, and not eating out so much. But then local transit, again, personal travel, these are areas where that can end up being quite expensive if you don't plan for it. So again, these are just some of the key costs to consider when thinking about a semester abroad. But we're going to do everything that we can to kind of help with those costs that come up. And so we're fortunate to have a pool of financial aid and scholarships that are just reserved for students who are considering studying away. So no additional applications needed for this. Students who apply and who are approved to study away are going to be automatically reviewed for our Global Programs Awards up to $3,000. They're going to be automatically reviewed for the Global Pathways Scholarship, which is up to $4,000. So just as a reminder, any loans, scholarships, and grants that you have coming into NYU, that's going to travel with you to your site. And again, these will be applied as a tuition credit on your bill. So they're not going to be able to be used as, for out-of-pocket expenses. So just factor that in. Some more information on scholarships and financial aid. There are a number of external awards that NYU students receive each semester that you should keep in mind. There's the Benjamin A. Gilman International Scholarship, which awards students upwards of $8,000 a semester. There is the Fund for Education Abroad, which targets underrepresented students, and I believe with that one, students can receive up to $5,000 a semester. The Freeman Awards for Study in Asia. And the list goes on. There's also, depending upon the study away location that you choose, there are going to be a number of scholarships and awards that are specific to a destination. So these are just additional financial aid opportunities that we hope that you will consider, because we see students receive these each semester, and it can really make a big difference in your study away plans. Some academic factors to consider is, I mentioned that the NYU study away sites, they're all a little bit unique, kind of have their own flavor. So review the course offerings to figure out what is going to be the right fit for you and your degree. Thinking about those core major courses versus electives. So maybe your study away semester is going to be one where it's important for you to take a couple of courses towards your degree, your major, or maybe you take care of that while you're in New York, and when you study away, you just want to load up your schedule on electives. So these are both approaches that students routinely take, but it just sort of takes planning and working with your academic advisor just to make sure that you stay on track. Keeping in mind, I mentioned that a language requirement, a language course is required at the majority of our programs. And so that's going to take up one of your course slots. As far as the number of courses that students take when they study abroad, we do require that students are registered full-time. So at NYU, that's going to be usually translates to 3 courses. And when students study abroad, they take 3 to 4 courses. So this isn't going to be an opportunity where students can, just take one course and then, hope to spend most of their time traveling. You're going to have to, put in the time studying. So it's 3 to 4 courses on your schedule. But, the student life staff, they'll work, and they have a number of opportunities kind of built in to make sure that you are getting outside of the classroom, and that the city and moving around the region is a part of the academic experience. So you'll have that to your advantage, and then you'll also be able to kind of factor in some travel on your own if you're really interested in again, exploring the city and the region. This is a tool we want all students to keep in mind. It's called the Global Study Planner. At the end of the presentation, you'll have a link to our website, and it's on the homepage of our website. But basically, the Global Study Planner allows you to plug in your academic area of interest, the semester you're hoping to go abroad, and it gives you all of those locations that will have the courses for your major. So this is a really helpful planning tool. The one thing I'll point out, if you decide that you wanted to look at this, right now, is that it might be in the process of being updated for future semesters, beyond fall 21. So you might just want to give it a few weeks to let us get caught up, and then this tool will be up to date, and you can kind of use it for future study away planning. So we have an academic internship program that allows students to intern for credits across the global network. You can intern for credit at all of our study away sites, and that's again, something that we've been working hard on over the last few years to make sure that that opportunity is available. And we partner with internship providers to ensure that you have relevant placements to kind of gain this hands-on experience. Just like you have to factor in a language requirement that will potentially take up a course slot, so too will you have to factor in the experiential learning seminar. So that kind of comes with the academic internship program. That's how you get your 4 credits, is that there will be a classroom component in addition to you getting outside of the classroom and working at your internship. There are a number of benefits to consider with doing an internship. It's really going to kind of get you out into the city. You're going to gain a deeper understanding of your host city. And it's a great way to kind of burst outside of the NYU bubble and to, meet locals and expand your network. Future employers are really going to value this international experience. So thinking to your time beyond NYU and applying for jobs, an academic internship is something that you will definitely want to consider. So in preparing to study away, just here are kind of the 5 points that we ask all students to keep in mind and consider as they move forward in the process. First is, your eligibility. So what does it take to be eligible to study away at NYU? I mentioned that we're trying to remove as many barriers as possible. So, we're really looking for students to have completed 2 semesters of study before they go abroad, and that students are in good academic standing. We used to have kind of hard GPA cutoffs and a number of supplemental materials that students had to submit, numerous essays, short answer prompts, but really we want this experience to be available to as many students as possible. So we just looked at you have completed 2 semesters of study, and that your school agrees that you're in good academic standing. And then as long as we have your application on time, you stand a really good chance of being able to participate. Researching the location is important. Mentioned, the academic profile being different across locations. So making sure that you know where you can go to take the courses for your degree. Researching extracurricular opportunities, the different costs. I mentioned the cost of living is an important consideration. Discussing your plans. So family and friends, talk about it with them. But when you arrive at university, whether it's NYU or elsewhere, always really important to keep in touch with your academic advisors, because they're the ones that are going to be able to kind of help you chart out your study away goals, and so that okay, second semester of my sophomore year is the best time for me to go abroad, or maybe it's that first semester of my junior year. So your academic advisors are going to be great resources for you. Spend some time reflecting. What are your professional goals? Can a study away semester help you reach those professional goals? I mentioned the academic internship program. That's something that you might want to consider. What are your personal goals? What do you want to get out of a study away experience? Is it to learn more about your heritage? Is it to again advance your language skills, and thinking about your identity? So these are new or what may be kind of new cultures and norms to you. So what does it mean to kind of bring your identity into that culture. We do a lot of work now kind of getting students to think about this before they go abroad, and this will be kind of built into some of our orientation programming. But adjusting to a new culture can be jarring, and I think one of the things that sometimes makes it particularly jarring for students is if they arrive in a new city and culture, and they kind of haven't really kind of thought through about the identities that they're bringing with them, and how that again, what's the context with the new city that you're going into. And then the last is the application process. And so our website is here. Will be provided at the end of the presentation, nyu.edu/global-programs. But really, this is how you're going to access an application when the time comes. And it's really just a form that takes about 5 minutes to complete. So it's just a simple approval form, again, removing as many barriers as possible, wanting to make it as easy as possible for students. We have a number of IDBE resources that students should keep in mind. So when you go to the website, you'll find pages for each of our study away sites. Each of those locations has a diversity resources page that highlights identity, diversity, belonging, and equity. It'll highlight resources at NYU like the LGBTQ office, the Center for Multicultural Education and Programming, and the Moses Center for Students with Disabilities. So definitely take a look at that. That is going to be really helpful for planning your study away semester. And then there's also the Global Equity Fellowship. So in seeking kind of help or just guidance or another resource around identity, you might not want to go to friends or staff. And so we want to make sure that there is somebody among your peers that are kind of trained to be an ally and to develop resources and just sort of be there to kind of listen to students. And so we have a Global Equity Fellowship program where these students are trained in advance of their semester abroad, and they are a good resource for the program. If you're interested in IDBE and perhaps being a Global Equity Fellow, this is also a great opportunity, and students who are chosen receive free housing. So again, just we can only really scratch the surface, but IDBE, a number of resources that we have in place to support students. Want to make sure that we have definitely plenty of time for any questions that might come in. So again, this is I work with the Office of Global Programs. Here is our email address, and I think one of the event organizers will kind of plop in a few emails to consider. A few URLs to consider. One for our website, and another for our YouTube channel. I would recommend kind of taking a look because there's nothing like hearing about a study away experience from another student. And so we've got a number of testimonials on our YouTube channel that'll be, give you great insight into what studying away with NYU will be like. And if you have any questions, just feel free anytime to send us an email at global.programs@nyu.edu. And so with that, let's take a look. Let me know if you have any questions. Let's see. One question that we have so far, is there a particular year that studying abroad is recommended? We see the majority of students will be studying abroad their sophomore year or their junior year. The numbers are pretty comparable, but a lot of it also depends on the program that you come into. So there are, some programs at NYU where they'll have a pretty strict funnel where it's designed and you'll be working with your academic advisors so that that the second semester of your junior year is really when my program expects me to study abroad. Others aren't quite have that strict of a funnel, and then you have options of sophomore year, junior year. Study abroad is possible for senior year. We see students do that, and students. Some students can only do it for one semester. Some students manage to set up their schedule where they can do it 4 semesters. So it really depends upon your school, but we see most students do it. I would say similar numbers with sophomore and junior year. One thing that I would point out is that spring semester tends to be a little bit more popular. So if you are eventually considering when to apply spring, it's really important to meet deadlines, apply early. Fall tends to be a little bit less competitive. How frequently are students allowed to study abroad? So I touched on this a little bit. From the Office of Global Programs perspective, we want to see you do it as many times as possible. So we don't have that many restrictions, but with your school at NYU and your academic advisors, it might be limiting in some ways how many times you can study abroad. But we see students that they're only able to pull it off for one semester, but again, there are some students who manage to do it for 3 or 4 semesters. That depends on what you're studying, and then again, the planning that you're doing in advance to make sure that your schedule can allow that. Are you able to study abroad for a specific course instead of a semester or year? Yes. So I mentioned that there are a variety of different ways to study abroad when you come into NYU. My office, which handles most study abroad programs, are focusing primarily on fall, spring academic year opportunities, but there are alternative break programs or classes that kind of might have a short-term study abroad component. It's really a large university, a lot of different schools, and so unfortunately, I don't have a link that will sort of show you what all those different opportunities are, but it is something that does happen at NYU. But I would say sort of more common would be the fall, spring academic year opportunities. Let's see. I'd like to study on a pre-med track, but was unsure of what major to pursue. Could I apply to liberal studies and be able to study internationally before declaring a major? Yes, you don't have to declare a major to study away. So most students again are going their sophomore year. There are a lot of courses at the sites, and so ideally you can kind of be taking electives that will eventually sort of count towards your degree when you declare. But yeah, we don't have a requirement that you have to have a declared major before you go abroad. Obviously, students who sort of know what they're studying, that kind of sort of helps them ensure that the courses that they're taking are going to keep them on track. But I think we've got enough courses and enough flexibility where I think it's extremely rare to see a student who has studied abroad and then they sort of find after the fact that they've taken courses that really aren't going to help them in any way advance their degree. But that's something too that when you come into NYU, I would definitely recommend a conversation, with your academic advisor about that. So I'm not sure if there are additional questions. I mean, I'm certainly going to stick around for all of the time that we have in case a last minute question comes in. But I just want to say thank you for attending the breakout session, and best of luck with finishing up your high school careers. And we hope that we see you at NYU and that you take advantage of our study away opportunities. But even if you choose a different school, just exploring a new culture and just learning about new perspectives around the world is just so valuable. And just again, whether it's with NYU or a different school, I hope that's something that you'll consider when you're in college.